How fast do you type?
Oh, I don't know. Like I never timed myself.
Oh, okay.
I know they have those programs where you can like start typing and you'll see, but I don't know.
Yeah. I type like 91 to 97 words a minute, maybe faster now, but last time I timed myself, it was like,
Pretty good.
yeah, 94, 93. All right, man. So with today's lesson, I mean, we already did 1 Corinthians 10, 1 through 13. But I was going to leave it open if we ever want to talk about 13 again. And then, but for the tonight, yeah, I was going to, if we want to bring up 13 and rehash what we did 1 through 10, 1 through 13, we can. But I was going to just close it out with 14 to 33 because I feel like we can probably finish that tonight. But I don't know. I was just going to divide it 14 to 22 and then 23 to 33. But yeah, we'll start off with prayer. So I'll start it off. Father, thank you so much just for your perfect blueprint through life and just all the guidance and the light that you give us in the midst of darkness, Father. You're such a good God, and we praise you just for the direction you're leading all of us in. Help us to be obedient to your will. Help us to trust you and to obey and to not lust after things and focus on things that aren't your will for each and every single one of our lives. So, Father, give us the guidance that each and every single one of us need with the conscience that we all have. Father, teach us what we need to beat our bodies into the submission and into subjection to what you, in a way that gives you the most glory, and help us to do the things that you want us to do through our lives, Father. So give us the revelation, everything we need in this life. And please bless this word and give us all the revelation we need, Father. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. What's up, Brian?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Was it pretty hard to get on? It was pretty easy.
Maybe it'll pop my video here in a minute.
Okay.
Hey, Maya.
Hey.
Einstein.
Hey.
Chaplin. Justin.
Yeah. I don't know who Justin is. No one calls me that.
Like, trying to figure out this video.
Yeah, you gotta look for like should be a video thing somewhere by your avatar, a video button you click. I don't know how it is on the phone. Oh, no. I look like you just did it. Yeah. I didn't think it would be the same, but that's good. So, all right, yeah. So we're gonna start off reading 1 Corinthians 14 to 22, and then after we talk about that section, we'll go 23 to 33. 1 Corinthians 10. So, yeah, let's get started. So I'll start reading. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 14. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. I speak as to wise men, judge ye what I say. The cup of blessing which we bless is not the communion of the blood of Christ. The bread which we break is not the communion of the body of Christ. For we being many are one bread and one body, for we are all partakers of that one bread. Behold, Israel after the flesh, are not they which eat the sacrifice partakers of the altar? What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to the devils and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You cannot be a partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. Do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? All right. So what y'all think about those verses? Like what stood out to you? And then it's free reign now, so you can always reference 1 through 10 as well.
Now, I like the, before I get too much into the idolatry, I will say, like, the first time I read this, I liked chapter. I like verse 15. I speak to sensible people, was my version. Mm-hmm. Judge for yourselves what I say. I like that because another verse I like that Paul also wrote was, now the Berean Jews were character. more so than the others. But they took what Paul said and tried to see if it was true. I liked that because, like, he's not trying to tell you, just take my word for it. Like, Paul's always been very logical to the Corinthians because they're still very carnal. They don't have that spiritual sense yet. So he's trying to show them that this has real world applications. Like, if you're honorable and if you do what God says, that flourishes your life. That brings you a prosperous life. So, like, he wants to show physical proof that if you follow God's word, like, you're going to have a good life. Like, all you have to do is, like, judge it for yourself. So I like how he's not saying just to have a blind faith. I think it is very important to have a childlike faith, but sometimes that's hard. So I like how Paul is encouraging them to, like, think about the word, like, to explore it. Mm-hmm. When he goes into idolatry, like, I like how he shows that if you flee from idolatry, like, your life is just going to be that much better. Like, see for yourselves. You will see that.
Right. Yeah, bringing back up, well, 1 through 10, like, verse 14 started off saying, like, flee from idolatry. Like, therefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. And anytime it's a Christian saying, y'all know it, anytime you see the word therefore in the Bible, you should know why it's therefore. Like, you should figure that out. And we read with verse 1 through 13, like, the Israelites in the Old Testament, the ones that were saved from captivity in Egypt, man, they had it going on. You know, they were baptized in the sea, like, with Moses. They ate spiritual meat, like, so they were baptized. They had communion with Christ. They drank from the rock. The rock is Christ. Like, so yeah, man, they were saved. Yet majority of them, except for 2 of them, died in the wilderness. Died in the wilderness, man. So, like, man, if we don't flee from adultery, no matter how bad you got it with God, no matter how close you think you are to him, like, he doesn't show partiality. He's not partial towards anybody. He doesn't show favoritism. So sin, there's consequences to sin. So no matter what you did for God in the past or in the future, like, it doesn't matter. Like, performance doesn't matter. What matters is, like, are you being obedient to him? Are you following his will, or are you entertaining sin? You know, you can't have it both ways. So I'll just stop there and let anybody else say something that triggered anything. Yeah, but, like, in 1 Corinthians 10:13 as well, like, the way of escape, we talked about that last week. And, like, yeah, with the way of escape, man, we're always supposed to be fleeing to Christ. We're always supposed to be seeking Christ first and running to him. So, like, that's the most, and that should be the most important thing to life to us, because it's all about having a relationship with him in this life. So when we don't do that and we flee to sin and to idols, like, we're not taking God seriously, we're not taking his word seriously, we're not taking ourselves seriously, and we're not taking what we're pursuing seriously either. Like, there's consequences for flirting and entertaining sin, and you're really testing God. Like, I like verse 22, like, do not provoke the Lord to jealousy. Are ye stronger than God? And that goes back to what you said, Justin, like, verse 15, like, Paul was calling the Corinthians wise. Like, only wise people will understand what I'm saying, because the Corinthians were so puffed up. Like, we've been studying that all through the book of Corinthians. Like, they thought they had it all together. They thought they knew everything about the Bible, just like some Christians think. And they thought, like, they couldn't stumble. They couldn't go wrong. Like, once you're saved, you'll never sin again. Like, and so he's telling the Corinthians, man, you're wise. You say you got it going on, so yeah, like, he said, are you stronger than God? Like, in verse 22, like, you're really going to provoke the Lord, like, saying that what's better, like, what to do with your liberty and your rights. You can do what you want to do, live how you want to live, and it doesn't matter how you offend anybody. Like, so, are you stronger than God? You really want to test God with that? You really want to test God with eating meat in the idol's temple, which is the whole text, causing other people to stumble, but also you, like, you're playing with sin. And that's the thing. It's all about the conscience. Like it's so deep. Like everybody's conscience ain't the same. Like some people, probably very few, were actually eating meat in the idol's temple to actually eat the food because they really liked the food, or it was really a bargain for it, or I don't know, like they just really enjoyed the food. But like some people probably did it because they actually liked what they were doing when they were worshiping those idols, and like being a part of that community and being associated with that community. Because the commentaries put it like this: like in that culture, with the Corinthians, like when they worshiped in the idol temples and they gave meat to it, everybody brought the meats to sacrifice to that idol to have fellowship with that idol, and join in fellowship. Because in the ancient world that Paul and them lived in, they used to worship anytime they went into the temple. Dang, that really distracted me. What's up, Christian? That just threw me off. Yeah. Dang. Where was I at? I don't even remember. Yeah, I don't remember. Did anybody else have something they want to say?
When I was reading this the first time, I was like a little confused on like why he jumped from idolatry to suddenly breaking bread, or being part of one body. But then I kind of realized that it's the same as when Jesus was saying, we can't serve both God and money. We can't have two masters. Like he was basically saying like that kind of idolatry takes away from the love that we have for God. Because if we, like, God is a jealous God. Anything that we focus on takes a lot of energy away from like how we connect with him or how we have fellowship with other people.
Right.
So I do like how it's I do like how Paul just like lays out to, if you're giving up these offerings to like pagans or idols, like that's detrimental to you. That's something that takes away from a godly. That's something that holds you closer to the world instead of a more spiritual life with God. And I know we've said it so many times, like the Corinthians are just very physical people. So Paul's still trying to get them on that spiritual road.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was trying to say. Like, by the way, Christian, we're on verses 14 to 22, just breaking those down. But in the ancient world, like the thing to do to show that you're friends with somebody, you have intimacy with somebody, or like you're just associated with the person and you approve of everything they do, really, you eat with that person. Like that was the culture. So like even the idols, like they would people would worship those idols and make sacrifices to them and then eat the feast that they made, sacrifices with, whatever was left over. So just like in Christianity, we do the same thing. So like, yeah, well, Paul's whole point is like with verse, when he's talking about breaking bread and communion and becoming one body with and all that stuff, like the whole point is, it may look innocent, but it's not. Like there's a deeper root to it, with what we're partaking in. And yeah, I was just looking up different words like partake and which means participate in communion. And man, it's so crazy, man. Like with the word partakers, like to participate in something means to engage in, join in, be involved in, share in, play a role, be a participate in, associate yourself with, so man, like how in the Bible it says you can't serve God or mammon, and then it says like you can't be double-minded. Don't be lukewarm, because even if you're lukewarm and you're in the middle, you're still not you're not hot. And God wants you to be hot for Him. He wants you to be on fire for Him. He wants all of you. He's a jealous God, like verse 22 says, and He has the right to be jealous. He has the right to be furious with us giving time and making sacrifices and doing things for other things in this world that are all created by him, when we should be giving all the praise and all of our attention and everything to him. So yeah, I'll let other people talk now. But did y'all have anything else with verse 14 to 22? Oh, is that it? So we'll go to verse.
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, okay.
Wait, Sean, can you hear Brian?
No, I cannot. Let me unmute him.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Must be a delay in the video. I'm just saying that they're saying that you can't go to God for holding hands with the devil. And a lot of times, you know, men and women, we won't, but we don't want to sacrifice everything. And that's what kind of puts us in that lukewarm category is you give up something, but don't get all of it. So this is a good study that, you know, it's talking about, you know, yeah, we got to be all or nothing. We got to be fine God, or we just might as well be all the way cold, because he's not going to deal with war. Because he is jealous. He's not going to take our leftovers. But the part that we want to give.
Right. And what's crazy is, like, it's all about the image. Like, we're going to come back to that point again, what Brian just said with verse 23 to 33. But, like, the whole bigger picture is all about reaching people for Christ, which is what Paul's focusing in on 1 Corinthians 8 to 10. Like, just that's the whole point. Winning as much souls as possible to Christ. Like, so it's all about image to people. Like, who do you associate yourself with? Everything. So if you do the littlest thing that offends somebody, the littlest thing that caused them to question, you know, your faith and your walk with God, like, because what's funny is atheists, they think they know what a Christian should look like and be like more than Christians do. Like, they always got something to say, and some of them actually do. And so
sometimes think they know what they're supposed to look like, to be fair.
Right, yeah. So, like, but that's the whole point. Like, we got to make sure that we're not so innocent and gullible with how we live our lives. Like, we got to make sure we calculate everything, because that's the whole point, man. We should all be giving glory and honor to God in every avenue, in every area of life. Because if you're slipping up in one area and somebody sees it, you're gonna cause them to stumble. You're gonna miss out on an opportunity to win them for Christ, man. It's a whole bigger picture. Like, you know, like you make. I like verse. I'm gonna just read some of the verses. Verse 16: the cup of blessing which we bless is not the communion. Yeah, is it not the communion of the blood of Christ? You know, the bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Christ? For we being many are one bread and one body, for we all are partakers of that one bread. So, like, to be a partaker of something, man, to participate, engage in something, man. Like you're saying, when you eat and you fellowship, make sacrifices or something, and you're there, like, especially in communion for Christ, like you're saying, you're making one body, and you're making you're making one body with Christ's body. You're becoming one flesh with Christ's flesh. Like, you guys see what I'm saying? So, like, man, like you're claiming something. So the same thing happens when you go into the idols temple. So yeah, one of the points I had, I don't remember what it was, but I don't know if I can find it, but basically the point was, you know, if you eat in that temple, yeah, if it means something to eat at the Lord's table, then it means something to eat at the table of demons as well. So, like, we can't just deny one and then accept the other one. Like, they're both significant. So, yeah.
I think we're losing some. Oh no, he got back. Yeah. Christian popped off a while ago though.
Like, I wonder if they having internet problems. Like, because Brian was kind of like modulated a little bit, like, you know what I'm saying?
When you're talking to the video roles.
Oh, really? Yeah, I guess it's a big thing.
It's some of it, like,
I had to mute him and unmute him because I couldn't hear him again. I figured he was talking though.
Yeah, a lot of times I try to keep myself muted because I don't know if I got background noise here at work or not.
Yeah. Right. Did anybody else have something they want to say? I do want to talk about that jealousy part. Like, I don't know if y'all ever heard Oprah say, like, she doesn't want to serve a guy that's a jealous guy, like, because jealousy is not a good trait to have. Or just
I never heard.
Yeah.
No, I never.
Yeah. But, like, yeah, some people think like that. They think that jealousy is, like, a bad trait to have. I mean, but if you're married to somebody, I mean, you want to share your wife around with the whole world, well, with anybody, really, and vice versa. So, like, if God created everything, wouldn't he be jealous for, our hearts and just because he knows what's best for our lives and everything. So us just seeking anything else and seeking it more than him, like, oh my gosh, I wonder what that actually does to him more so than anybody. Because, marriage is a picture of our relationship with God and everything like that. So yeah, man, that's why verse 22 is powerful as well. And then also, like just worshiping in the idols temple as well. Like it's I saw another example with that is like when a man puts his hand in the fire, you may not intend to burn yourself, but it doesn't matter what your intention is. Like whether you intended to burn yourself or not, you're still going to get burned. So same thing happens when Christians or anybody they worship any type of idol. Like, you may not mean anything by it, and you may not even see it. But just because you don't see it and you don't acknowledge it doesn't mean you won't get burned and face the consequences for worshiping idols. So like that's why it's so important in the Christian life. Like, idols ain't just something you just look at and you worship. Like it could be the stuff that you struggle with in your weekend in your conscience that you keep those temptations that you continually entertain and you seek after. And you make those into idols and you seek those things and you think that those pleasures will satisfy you more than God can. And that's how you end up in the wilderness, just like the Israelites, back in the Old Testament. But yeah, it's this lesson so deep, man. It is so deep. But y'all ready to go to verse 33 to 23? I mean 30, 23 to 33.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to read? Or do y'all want to split that up as well?
I can start reading. Do you want me to read part of it though, or the whole thing?
I don't know. You feel like that's long?
I'm trying to think, because I like to. I'll read. You want me? How about I read 23 to 26? Because I like how we split up the verses sometimes.
All right, yeah, let's do that.
Right. I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. Eat anything sold in the meat market without raising questions of conscience. For the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Man, I like that first verse, though. Like, I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. Because that's, like, so easy to, like, a trap of, like, giving in to sin. Because you think, oh, I'm already saved, it's fine, or I'm already forgiven. But that's kind of a slap in the face to say, oh, well, you did all this wrong, so I can do whatever I want. But no, that's not what God did. He did that so, like, Jesus died on the cross so that we could be free from sin, that we can continue to follow in it. So I just like that because it just shows that it goes back to how Paul is telling you to flee from idolatry and to like see for yourselves why that's good for you. Like if you avoid sin like that, not only is it because it's something God wants you to do, it's something that's beneficial for your life to not do that thing.
Yeah, Brian, we just read 23 to 26.
And if his phone's on the table, because I could see it like aimed straight up.
I'm trying to make sure he's not talking. Keep on muting him, but I'm muting him so I can make sure I don't miss nothing. But yeah, so like I'll keep on talking about verse 23. But yeah, man, I think Paul said it before in First Corinthians. I don't remember where it was, but I think it was like First Corinthians 7. But yeah, that's so powerful for us, man, because you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And like I like how one thing, it's just so much, man. Like there's so much to say with that. But like Paul's, I like how Justin, you said earlier that Paul's focusing on everything kind of on a surface level, like outwardly, because that's what Christians do. Like Christians have a to-do list. Like I just can't do this. I'm restricted from doing this, and that's how unbelievers think Christianity is. They think Christianity is a bucket list, like something you gotta check mark and uncheck mark. Like you can't do this set of rules. Like, and that's not Christianity. You know, you're at liberty and you're free to do everything. And like a lot of preachers was talking and talking about this passage, they said like, you know, it's sad that, you know, Christians like kind of limit themselves to what they can and can't do, so much so that when their kids grow up, they neglect the church. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't want anything to do with their parents because they were just so strict and confine them so much. And does God do that with us? Like, no, like, you know, you have a whole forest, like, but we're all focused on that one tree you can't eat. And that's all that life's all about. Just that one tree. You just look at that doom and gloom, can't do that. You don't enjoy the whole forest. Like it's so powerful, man. Like there's so much we can do, but like there's so much that we don't do, right? So like yeah, man. So yeah, and then something else I want to say was too, like just a few more points. You know, not everyone can handle your freedom, and that's another thing that we do. Like some people abuse their freedom; they do way too much, and they're either a stumbling block to themselves because they do way too much, or they're a stumbling block to other people. So like we got to learn how to say no. That's the biggest thing. Like some you can't do everything. We gotta. And Paul said that in First Corinthians, you know, chapter 9, verse 27 again. You know, I keep my body and I bring it under subjection, lest by any means, when I preach to others, I myself should not be cast away. You know, and all that stuff. I shouldn't be a stumbling block. You know, all that stuff. So like, yeah, man, like it's just so much in the Christian life that we gotta like have a balance with. You gotta have a balance. So yeah, our right to do something should never trump, you know, our love for someone else and our responsibility towards loving one another or someone. Yeah, so it's just so much. I don't know if we hit that though. We haven't hit that yet. Yeah, we did. Let no man seek his own, but every man's another wealth. Yeah. King James Version is so weird, but 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 I kind of wanted to read verse 27 with verse 25 because they both said ask no questions. Um, but Justin, did you have anything else you want to say with that?
Let me pull up my notes. I mean, I just jumped into that one because like I really like those verses.
Yeah.
But I think I do like how it's like it still ties into the previous verses too. But it's saying like, eat anything sold in the meat market without raising questions of conscience, for the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Like I think that goes back to like intentions as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. These verses are a little hard to pick apart because at first, like he's saying, like be very conscious about what you do. You can't just do whatever you want. But then the next verses also kind of give that balance, like he was saying, of like maybe don't read too much into it because it's like the Pharisees were like reading really into, oh, I mean, you can't work or you can't help people or heal people on a Sabbath day. That's blasphemous, but that's not like reading into the spirit of the law. Like the intentions behind Jesus's actions were obviously to like help or support other people. So I do like how I always like verses that show a balance because sometimes we can lean it one way or the other, just depending on like how we feel, or to weaponize verses. Like the verses like, for the wages of sin is death. If you just stop there, that's like super depressing. But the flip side of that other coin is, but the gift of God is everlasting life in Christ Jesus. Like that's a balance to things. The same thing for this one. I just love it's like, don't just do whatever you want, but also like be aware of your intentions behind an action and don't read too much into it.
Right. And that's the biggest thing, man. Like Here goes 2 points. We kind of said it already, but your right to do something doesn't make it right to do. And then just because you have the freedom to do it doesn't mean you should do it. Like, man, we just got to pray all the time, because just because something's okay to do doesn't mean it's always okay to do. Right. And like, that's how some people live. Like, they live like, I have this right, I can do it. And I'll be thinking about that all the time, Christian. Like, we'll talk about it in these next few verses. But like, one example before I forget is like for Christmas, like I can't just post. I be thinking about that all the time with my Instagram page, what I can and can't post. I got so many Christians that follow me, and I'm just getting more and more. And so, like, if I post a Christian picture, a Christmas picture, or like a Halloween picture, I already know, boy, I'm gonna lose a lot of followers, because like, because that's where their mind goes to, man. Like, you celebrate Christmas, like you celebrate Halloween. Don't you know that's a pagan holiday? Like, knowledge puffs up, man. Like, but like even then, like I still can't post. That's sad to me. Like, I can't post it because of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh,
that's like the day of like Christmas was also like related to a pagan holiday.
Yeah.
Like, the historians have found that Jesus was actually born around June, but we use December 25th, like the winter solstice, because that was already like a celebration time of like a pagan holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I like that because it switches over to like how God can use anything for good. Like, what Christian is gonna say, oh, Christmas is, you can't celebrate Christmas, it's like has a pagan roots or something like that. No one's gonna say, well, some people say that. Yeah. But no one reasonable is gonna say that. So I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I think Halloween is like is a good outlet for like families to have fun and stuff like that. So I feel like knowing the origins of something is like important, because we don't want to like repeat history, but like we also shouldn't let that stop us from like having fellowship or enjoying time with others, or I don't know, just to worship God.
Right. And that brings me to my next point, like verse 24, let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth. So, the good of another brother, and that goes to like Philippians 2, verse 3-4. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. So like, yeah, man, one of my points was what is good for you may not be good for others. So like, we can't be selfish in this life. And so many people, man, they seek their own good instead of what's good for everybody else, like what really benefits. And that goes back to verse 23, man. I love that saying, man. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. Edify. Like, I looked up what that word means, man. Like, I kind of already knew, but it's so deep, man.
What was the definition of edify that you found?
It says to instruct or improve someone morally or intellectually.
Oh, okay.
But like all the synonyms, that's what got me. It's educate, instruct, teach, school, tutor, coach, train, guide, enlighten, inform, cultivate, develop, indoctrinate, improve, better, uplift, elevate. That's what edify means, man. Like,
and that's like super important to know, because like I was reading some verses about how the tongue is like so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was relating to how it's like a rudder on a boat, or like a bit in a horse's mouth. Like, it's so small, but it has like such a disproportionate control over something so big.
Right.
And that's why teachers are probably going to be judged more strictly, because of like how much it affects people.
Mm.
Hey, what were those Philippian verses, by the way? I that actually fits into my Bible study for tomorrow. I'm going to steal that really fast.
You want me to post it in chat?
Oh, yeah, sure. Or just say it out loud.
It's Philippians 2, 3-4.
2, 3, 3, 4. Awesome.
Yeah, 2, 3-4. Yeah, and something else I was going to say too, man. This quote is so crazy, man. Edification supersedes gratification. So edification supersedes gratification. Because like, everybody in this life, they seek what they want first. Like, they always look out for themselves instead of looking out for somebody else. Like, how is this going to benefit me instead of how it's going to benefit others? Like, and that you can't, in a Christian life, you're supposed to love God first, then love your neighbor first. So many people live like for the day for myself. Like, what can I do today for myself? And we should be living like in a bigger sense. Like, how can I reach people for Christ? Like, how can I draw people closer to Christ? How can I show people God's love through work? Like, you shouldn't have to talk. Like, so many people think that they have to talk and say something to reach somebody for Christ. Like, it's about action and you in the way that you live in everyday life, even what you cook, eat, like, it doesn't matter. Do all things for the glory of God. Verse 31 is going to be talking about that. So, yeah, man, like, the whole point is, like, we're not supposed to miss out on our opportunity to serve somebody, like, with all of our schedules, with our rights that we have and our freedom. Like, we should always be trying to win somebody for Christ. And so, yeah, our whole life should be rearranged and arranged by that, so. But I think I said everything I want to say with those verses, because like everything else I want to say is with everything else. I didn't want to spoil everything. So y'all ready to go to verse 27 to 33?
Yeah, I think.
Brian, did you have anything you want to say?
No, but I can read the next section. We're going to start at 27.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How far are we going to go down to?
We can go to 33 unless Justin, you want to stop somewhere else, like at
No, I think both of those tie in together.
All right,
yeah.
So so we'll go 27, 33.
Okay. If an unbeliever invites you to a meal and you are disposed to go?
Yep.
Okay. And you're disposed to go, eat whatever is set before you without raising any question on the ground of conscience. But if someone says to you, this has been offered in sacrifice, do not eat it, out of consideration for the one who informed you and for the sake of conscience. I mean, the other conscience, not your own. But why should my liberty be subject to the judgment of someone else's conscience? If I partake with thankfulness, why should I be denounced because of that for which I give thanks? So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do everything for the glory of God. Give no offense to the Jews or to the Greeks or to the church of God, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, so that they may be saved. Be imitators of me as I am of Christ.
It's funny how you brought in 1 Corinthians 11:1 with that. A lot of people say, "Oh, what you saying?"
My bad. I say that 11 right there, but it looked like it all ran together.
It did. Yeah, it does. That's what everybody says.
I was literally trying to figure out. Oh gosh, is my Bible missing a verse?
Yeah, it's right there, but it's the one is right behind the last verse, 33.
Yeah. No, but it's great that you did that, because like most theologians and everybody say like that, they feel like it's out of order because 1 Corinthians 11:1 ties in with all that. Like, because that ties in with everything Paul's been saying. Like, Paul was saying in 1 Corinthians 8, right? Or was it 9? No, 1 Corinthians 9, he was saying like, I gave up my right to receive money from the Corinthian church, so I don't cause y'all to stumble. Some of y'all can't handle me and a pastor making money because y'all think some preachers only want money to get rich and famous or something, to abuse the church and take everything. Like, and they only get money to like say messages and tell you things that you want to hear, like people in Hosea and Habakkuk and Malachi's time. But Paul didn't want them to think that, so he didn't want to get paid. And he was saying, as what I do, like I gave up my liberty, I gave up my right to receive money from the church, so you guys can give up your rights and your liberties just to love your neighbor and love God, because to love your neighbor means to love God, to forsake something, to make a sacrifice for somebody else's benefit and well-being. That's the same thing Christ did, right? Like Christ died, came down from heaven, the best place ever, to this crummy, awful world, rejecting God. Like, well, he came down from his throne just to die for our sins. Like, so yeah, so he gave us his right, his freedom, made a huge sacrifice. So we're called to do that for others, like just to paint the picture of Christ. Like, so yeah, man, and you do that so you can reach as many people for Christ as possible. And I like how what I just said ties in with verse 32. Give no offense neither to the Jews, nor to the Gentiles, nor to the church of God. So your goal is to not offend the Gentiles, so unbelievers, not to offend the Jews, religious people, like people who are more conservative, people who are more judgmental, probably, like not offend the church of God, other believers. Like, why don't you want to give offense to them? Because you're always trying to win people for Christ, man. You're trying to win. And I like verse 33, even as I please all men in all things. So Paul, like, he knew the arena. He knew whoever he was talking to, whoever area he was in. You can't just do something. And another preacher put it like this. He said, you can't just go into somebody's house and walk in with muddy shoes in their house. That's disrespectful. I don't care what house you go into, but especially some houses. If you see them take off their shoes and they operate a certain way, and they don't have a dinner table and they actually sit down on the floor, it'd be disrespectful for you to go on the couch and eat your food. Like, if they're on the floor, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta be able to adjust and change to win people, like, right? So why? Because you're not seeking my own profit. It's not about you. So many Christians live for themselves. So many Christians live to do what they want to do. And you can't win nobody doing that, right? Because you can profit so many people. And so many people will want to know your God and will want to know what you know and have what you have if you're just show them the love that God has shown us. Just like God has shown us love and it enticed us and wanted us to know him. Same thing happens for unbelievers with us. So yeah, I'll just start off like that. Justin, did you have anything?
I have a lot for like down to verse 31, but like I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Man, go ahead, man. Like, cause I'll come back up to 27. I got stuff to say with that too.
And I can actually remember the first time I read these verses. Like, how old am I? Maybe 7 years ago. Like what does it mean to like eat or drink in the glory of God, or like how do you do certain actions? How do I like vacuum my kitchen or like do laundry for the glory of God? Like that's made me think for like a long time. And it's like someone put it, it's like you thank God like constantly. Like, how we're supposed to pray constantly? You're also supposed to be aware of like the things God is giving you. Like the verses preceding it, it's talking about how you shouldn't worry too much about like what you eat if it's just a meal that's been given to you. So, same for like this verse as well. Like we have to thank God for what he's given us, whether we're eating or whether we're taking care of a home that he's given us, or going to a job that maybe we don't like that job too much, but at least God's like given us something that we can live by. Like we give all those things to the glory of God, which I think is very important in it. Like sometimes we categorize stuff as like good or bad. Not that there aren't categories of good and bad, but sometimes we automatically assume that some things are bad. This is going to be a weird analogy, but that Inside Out movie, we talked about this during Life Group one time. How we said, oh man, sadness is just like a bad emotion. But then the movie was saying, well, sadness can be used for like gaining that empathy for other people or showing that we need help.
Yeah.
I think the same thing for this, in which we don't need to automatically throw stuff into this is the bad bin, but we should appreciate it for how God has used it in our lives.
I'm glad you said that, man, because like one of the points I had, like one of the analogies I was going to use was during Life Group, when I showed you guys that Black Mirror episode. You remember that?
Oh.
And everybody hated it but me. I was like, what's wrong with y'all? But like, Yeah, that was
wrong with you. That was your question. What was wrong with you? And you said you seen it like 6, 7 times. Like, dude, you're nuts.
right.
I think there's a lesson behind it, but it didn't make me feel good.
Right. And that's the perfect example, bro. Like, I like what Paul said, in verse 29, he says, conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? Like,
2 years later, still trying to justify yourself?
No, I'm not trying to justify myself. Not like, for real, like, what just that passage, I'm not gonna read any of the verses. What that passage, like, I'll bringing it all together. Like, my conscience, I can't think that people have the same conscience as me no more. You know what I mean? Like, Christians can't afford to do that. Like, people, what I think's appropriate and what you know, I'm fine with watching. Somebody else may not be fine with watching. It may be a stumbling block to somebody else. So, like, as Christians, man, we just gotta be conscious of that, and always keep up a guard. Otherwise, we'll miss out on an opportunity. Because once you miss out on that opportunity, you're probably not gonna get it back. You know, once you offend somebody and they don't see Christ in you because of something like that. Like, I could have lost a lot of people that day. Like, when I showed that video, man. I mean, I loved it. But yeah, I still watched it.
We touched it to your head and not your heart. Yeah. Touched it to your head and not your heart.
Right.
It was the content. I mean, you can get something good out of anything, but yeah, everything is not beneficial. Right. It was the content of that black girl.
Yeah.
Right.
What I like the lesson we pulled from it, but man, part of it was just how much
I can't even remember what happened. I can't even remember the lesson. I don't even know what we got from it. I don't even know if my daughter was there. I was just thinking, I don't even know. I can't even. It's a blur. Oh yeah, she wasn't there. I was thinking, well, this is a Bible study. I'm glad Brittany didn't come to.
The bad thing is more episodes of Black Mirror.
What you say?
The bad thing is that's one of the tamer episodes of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
That wasn't even one of the hardest episodes.
Yeah.
It gets pretty deep.
Yeah. Something else I was gonna say too is I'll just read the verses and then it'll help me to talk better. But verse 27, if any of them that believe not bid you to a feast, and ye be disposed to go whatsoever is set before you, eat, asking no questions for conscience. And that is so powerful because he said, if an unbeliever, if you go out to eat with an unbeliever, like, how many times do you get to go out to eat with an unbeliever? Like, especially as believers, like, the older you get and the more you've been in the faith, like, all you're going to associate with is believers. That's what most believers do. So, like, you'll never be in this situation. But if you are, don't ask questions like, don't ask too many questions, right? Because just imagine that, like, going out to eat with an unbeliever, and all you ask the whole time is this food meant for an idol? Like, where did it come from? And you're just nagging them, keep on asking questions like that, like the whole time, the whole dinner. Like, all the person's gonna think is like, you're a picky person, you're hard to please, you're never satisfied with anything. I can't eat that. No, I can't eat that. That's not good. That was sacrifice to Satan. Satan's fine. Like, how are you gonna reach people like that? Like, you can't. Like, so it's the same thing. Like, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. That's the perspective we gotta have. We can't see everything as bad all the time, right? Like, there's gonna come a time probably when you're in somebody's culture and you got to eat a beetle or eat a bee or something. Like, I'll be danged, but still, like, it'd probably be offensive not to eat whatever they put in front of you in Africa or wherever they eat beetles at in India. Like, but if you're trying to win them for Christ, that's what the duty's called for. Like, it's the same thing, man. It's just certain stuff that every culture is different. I like how Paul, like, this is so broad. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, every culture is different. Every race is different. We do different things. And then you're trying to win people for Christ, man. You got to be willing to do anything. And that's what Paul's been saying in 1 Corinthians 8 and 9, like in 10. So. But then something else I saw too, you know, like with religious people, Pharisees, they're the only people that would ask questions like that, honestly. Like you really think about real religious, true religious people, that's all they do, man, is ask questions. And then they limit themselves to what they can do. Anybody else have anything?
He don't believe in God. Well, he'll tell you that's not my religion or whatever. He invited me not this past weekend. Was it this past weekend? I think it was this past Saturday or Saturday before last. He invited me to go eat with his family because they get together once a month. And I wasn't able to go. I really wanted to go because I knew it really meant a lot to him. One, because he invited me. I mean, we're cool here at work, and he kind of respects me, even though, you know, he's not into the religion thing and all of that. But I did let him know the next time that he goes, that he gathers with his family at Golden Corral, to definitely let me know, because I wanted to go. Because, you know, like you say, God gives us opportunity not to beat somebody over the head with the Bible, but just for relationship. And as we build relationship with people, then that can be the end to them softening up. And I don't know where it said that, you know, for somebody to give their life to Christ, it's like 17 encounters or 18 encounters. And you might be number 7. You might be number 9 or 10. You may not be the 17th one that actually leads them to Christ, but you might be number 3, 4, or 5 that started that foundation. So that's what I got out of that whole, you know, you talk about eating and this, that, and the other, but I can really identify with that. You know, if an unbeliever invites you to a meal, don't ask questions, this, that, and the other, because it's more important than what you're eating. It's the relationship that you're building and bonding with that person that can ultimately turn their life over to Christ. So it's not a relationship. It's not our relationship with God. It's not our relationship with one another. Like you said, that we don't do anything to offend one another, especially an unbeliever, because, of course, you always got naysayers waiting to poke their finger at you. But even with Justin and I being in Christian Motorcycle Association, that's one of the important things that is always preached: stay neutral. You know, even with your social media, and regardless of whether you are Democrat or Republican, or whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, regardless, it's important to stay neutral. Because you start liking stuff and posting stuff and this, that, and the other, it's going to show where you're at. And then it's going to be a whole bunch of folks that you're going to miss because you got off your neutral platform, you got on your meism platform. This is what I'm about, whether you like it or not, blah, blah, I believe in this, and I think everybody should do it. Okay, that's your opinion. Kick rocks. Everybody don't think like you think, even though you may be right. It's not to say you're not right. It's to say, is it more important for me to be right, or is it more important for me to stay neutral for Christ? Which is it? So it's, you know, but that's my little spiel that I got out of those verses that we've been talking about.
Right. And to flip the script too, with verse 30, like, for if by grace be a partaker, why am I evil spoken of for that for which I give thanks? And sometimes when I read the King James, it's so weird. Like, but anyways, like what he's saying here is like, you know, how can we judge another person's conscience? Like, and as Christians, we got to consider that. Like, you may have the knowledge, but knowledge puffeth up. Like 1 Corinthians 8 said, I think it's the very first verse. So like, just because you have knowledge about something doesn't mean you're right about something. So we can all, like, that Black Mirror episode is a good example. Like, my intention with that, like, and what I thought about it is different than what everybody else thought about it, right? So like, but if a person like was really offended and mad and was like judging me, it was like, how can you watch it? Like, and they thought like the literal, like what they literally thought about that episode and like their conscience towards it is what I thought towards it. Like, we can't live life like that. Like, you know, and so that's the whole point. Like, I think Paul's trying to say, like, we all see stuff differently. We all have a different brain and we function differently. So, you know, you can't judge another person's conscience and saying, you know, saying where it's at when you don't know. Only God knows the motives of the heart. Only God knows the intentions. Only God can judge people's heart. Only He knows. Nobody else knows. Even the other person, they probably don't even know. Right? So, you know, and we talk about that too. Like a lot of times we deceive ourselves into thinking we know what we know when we really don't know anything. So, yeah, it's just about, we got to pray about a lot of stuff and figuring out all that stuff. Yeah. Justin, did you have anything else though?
Not for actually, no. Not but what's already been said.
Okay. Yeah, I want to end off saying like the life application, I think for this chapter altogether is like relationship supersedes everything. Like it's the principal thing, man. Like it's bigger than God's. I would even say God's. Well, it's not bigger than God's commandments, but I think y'all know what I'm saying. Like God's commandments, following rules, religion, telling people what to do, and telling people how to live. Like relationship super exceeds all that stuff. Because love the Lord your God with all your heart, and then love your neighbor. Like if you do those two things, you're automatically gonna follow the 10 Commandments. Like, cause we talked about that with 1 Corinthians 10, 1 through 13. Like, you know, stealing is the sin, but it ain't the sin that led to the sin, right? There's something deeper going on for somebody to want to steal. Same thing for if you commit adultery. There's something deeper going on before you can even commit adultery or commit murder. So like, yeah, man, like it's about getting to the root of everything. So yeah, if we have the right relationship with God and if we have the right relationship with God, we're gonna have a right relationship with others. We're gonna follow commandments. We're gonna automatically do stuff, right? But if you don't, like the Corinthians, obviously the relationships with God is a little off for them to be doing all these things, and then Paul to point it out, right? So God's trying to get them straight. So we've been talking about how carnal they are and everything. So yeah, man, this was a great chapter. Like I'm happy we did it. I was wondering, did y'all have anything with verse 13 though, like that y'all wanted to add? Because I feel like there's so much to say with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what we already said so I don't like repeat myself, but it's like, actually I do remember, I did say this, but I'll say it again because I like it. Mm-hmm. It's like, I like the part where it says, but when you are tempted, like it doesn't say like, if you're tempted, because we all know we're going to be tempted. It's not a matter of if it'll happen, it's a matter of when it'll happen. Mm-hmm. But I just like it how it says, but when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out. Like God knows our hearts. He knows we're already going to probably screw up. But like he's that faithful that he'll always provide a way out. And I like that part.
Right.
Hey, they calling me for my line, so I gotta go, fellas.
All right. Appreciate you coming, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have fun and be safe.
See you next time.
We'll see you later. Hey, some of the points I had that I didn't really get to say last time with verse 13 was you remember how Satan wanted to tempt Job and Peter? Like and Jesus said, you know, Peter, Satan's looking to sift you as wheat. Like man, like any minute Satan could destroy us. Like that's what he wants to do. Like just destroy us. And that is so powerful. Like, cause when I lost my 40K Twitter account, Justin, that's what I thought about. Like, that's the first thought that came to my mind. Like Satan's looking to steal, kill, and destroy. Like he's a thief. He wants to take everything that God's doing and destroy it. Like all his goodness, destroy it. Like make everything worse. And like God could let him do it all the time, but he doesn't. Like he just holds him back. He won't let it happen like that, right? And that's such a blessing, man, because he's faithful when it comes to that. Like when you think about all the stuff that could have happened to you that didn't happen to you, man, we got so much stuff to praise him for, man, for real. So, and then like God is faithful in a sense too. He won't allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. Like another analogy towards that is like a mom with a kid in a grocery store, and she knows every time they go in the candy aisle that kid freaks out. So like the mom, out of love for that kid, is gonna keep him from that temptation by like avoiding that aisle to where the kid don't see the aisle. Because you don't go in the aisle, you're not gonna want it. You're not gonna see that temptation. But as soon as you go in there, like the kid goes crazy. So like, and God's like that with us. But I mean, obviously we all change over the years, hopefully, and we become mature. So eventually God can, give us that thing we always been wanting. But like some stuff just temptation for us at that time. And like we're not ready for it and we can't handle it, So and yeah, so that's a beautiful thing. Like God keeps us for what we can't handle. That's another point I had with 1 Corinthians 10:13. Maya, did you have anything? Remember last time?
Y'all already basically said everything. I'm just repeating. It's not needed.
Okay.
We do say a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I basically said everything as well with 1 Corinthians 10:13. But honestly, Justin, when Yao asked that question last week, I barely heard her. Like it kind of glitched.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was guessing what she said a little bit.
I thought you answered it well.
Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, man, this chapter was crazy, man. What'd you think about the study, though? I feel like everybody's a little tired, like, and just like, I don't know, need to rest a little bit.
Yeah. To be fair, like, maybe I didn't. I feel strongly about some verses in this, so maybe that's directed my attention a little. Because, like, when I read this, I thought, oh man, I love this verse. I'm going to talk about that. And I guess maybe that accidentally made me shun some of the other verses. Oh, okay. So when I said my bill and everything, like, I guess that was it. That's my bad.
Oh, you good.
And yeah, this chapter just has like so many good verses you can like isolate and use for like anything. And that's something I like about this particular chapter.
Right. Yeah, like I always had 1 Corinthians. When I first became a Christian, I always had 1 Corinthians 10:31 and 1 Corinthians 10:13 memorized. That's a go-to. Like you gotta know those two. But like studying the whole chapter, just bring it all together. Like, and yeah, I just like I wish we would have focused on like communion a little bit more. Like, cause I wanna like really pull it out. Being partakers of the altar and stuff like that. But I guess we did a pretty good job with that. But I mean, still, we could have focused on a little bit more, like 17 to 21. But I think other than that, like I think we did a pretty good job at focusing on the other verses and pulling those out. Did you say everything you wanted to say with the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof?
Yeah. Oh, wait. For which one? Sorry.
The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Like it said it twice in verse 26 and verse 28.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything written down for that, actually.
I just thought about it though, like, cause I just thought about like how you pointed it out. Like I could tell from the way you said it, like you like that part of life.
I do.
Yeah, and like so powerful because like we talked about how like Christians restrict themselves. Like how many Christians do you know like really restrict themselves, and their whole Christian life, their whole relationship with God is about restricting what they can do.
Man, sometimes that's like walking on a tightrope though. Sometimes restrictions are good.
Yeah.
Like the very first verse or second verse we read is like we can't do everything we want. We have to restrict ourselves. But at the same time, like maybe we think too much on it and we don't reach as many people as we could because we have unnecessary restrictions or we were nervous about something or something like that. So that's a topic in itself, really.
Yeah, when you said that, bro, I thought about like verse 27 when it says when you go out to eat with an unbeliever, bro. Like some Christians, they will never be around another unbeliever. They feel like you can't associate with unbelievers at all. Like so.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, like you would never. How you gonna reach somebody you don't have a relationship with them? Like you don't build a relationship,
Work too. Like there's someone who's like there's like someone who like, man, they help me all the time. I'll send them an email to like help me with monitor or like with our sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And like offhandedly, like she had just mentioned about her wife. And I guess that caught me off guard because like I didn't know she was in that situation.
Yeah.
But like when I thought about it, I thought, man, I don't want that to like get in the way of how I think about her or like how much help she's done for me.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, I won't agree with it, but I'm also not going to like suddenly go into a religious rant because I know that's not going to help her or that's not going to help me at all.
But that's like a life application right there. Like with these verses though, like when he said ask no questions, like remember how we said like sometimes ignorance isn't bliss, like so not knowing not knowing the truth about the Bible will cost you, and then but like in this sense ignorance is bliss because there's some stuff you don't need to know. Like a good example is like when I listen to certain music, I don't want to know that artist had 5 divorces, which a lot of them have. Like I don't care, and I don't want to know what their intention was of the song. Like especially if it was satanic or something. If it's a good beat and it's catchy, I like it. Like so I turn it into what I want with my conscience. But when somebody tries to push it on me, like, don't you know that song? I don't care. Just keep it to yourself. Like that's not what it is to me. Don't try to force that on me. Like, but that's how But that's what Paul's saying with this text as well. Like, it's both sides of the equation, right? Like, obviously, I want to listen to that music around, that person. You want to judge it, like, okay, then, like, but yeah, movies, shows, everything. But man, we gotta walk on eggshells, Christian. We really do, as Christians, for the most part. Especially the bigger your platform is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. I'm gonna stop the recording unless somebody else has something.
I think I'm good.
All right.